Howdy. Sorry if there's a lot of background noise. Just a couple of things about Truckee and Kiely Rodney's situations. Just two aspects. The township of Truckee and those that are charged with running the place, keeping law and order and keeping the town operating, so to speak, besides all the business owners and people who are residents there, visitors, etc. Maybe they make decisions that aren't good ones in hindsight. Maybe they've been doing them because they want to create a pleasant town and a pleasant space for people. And that's that. But is this good judgment and is this right to do? Okay, so I know a lot of you will disagree, right? But what if, it seems to be there's the unspoken rule, the unspoken rule is that kids can go and party at the sanctuary at Prosser Campground and be unbothered. But the quid pro quo is, or the agreement is that, hey, you kids don't drive drunk and we won't bother you out there. In Australia and in New Zealand, if you're in a national park, and I believe Prosser Reservoir is a national park, part of a national park, well, you can't just go into a national park and do whatever you want. Number one, if you're camping there, rangers will come around and they will collect a fee. And that's anywhere in Australia or New Zealand. We have park rangers and they go around and collect fees. They check that people aren't doing other unlawful things that might endanger wildlife or the land or etc. Such as have illegal fires. They check on all sorts of activity, right? And I feel like Truckee has a duty of care, number one, to maintain certain standards for the treatment national parks and reserves get from the visitors there. There was a big cleanup, wasn't there, on the 6th? All the parents who know their children out partying there, and not all of them were camping instead of driving. A lot of them drove away from the party that night and not the next morning. They went and cleaned up. Okay, now cleanup's nice, that's great, right? But park rangers not only should be a threat, a promise to visitors to parks. They're there to check on a lot of things, and they should be policing if there are underage drinkers. Maybe they need to contact the sheriff's office. What about the safety of, say, young women who might get assaulted? What about the danger of drunk driving, people leaving the area, especially underage people leaving the area, or of any age, and actually going out and killing other citizens, innocent citizens on the road who are driving around for work or going home or whatever they're doing, just minding their own business in a legal manner, not under the influence. There are so many reasons for Truckee to give a little bit more of a shit and not be so cool, not try to be, the cool auntie, right? Because that is really bigoted on their behalf. It's bigoted, it's skewed, protecting some and not others. It's saying, well, your chance to have fun, party it up, you've got more of a right to do that than other people have to be safe from you, than other people have to feel safe in this park. It doesn't sit right with me. People might think, well, you're a party pooper. No, when you're young and you're taking these risks, That's what it is. It's risk-taking that young people do, inexperienced people do, stupid people do, people that, aren't thinking clearly or thinking of their futures or whatever it is, right? Okay? This campground is a family campground, and other families are trying to be there lawfully and enjoy the pristine beauty of the reservoir, enjoy the water sports, enjoy the hiking, just enjoy the restfulness, the peacefulness. So if there are underage drinkers that might burn the place down because they decide to have a bonfire, they might drive their vehicles off the tracks into someone's tent. I mean, there's a lot here. So it just means that So Truckee is known as a very lax place that just looks after some citizens and not others. They allow their taxpayers to provide underage children with alcohol, to openly know that their children are indulging in alcohol and other drugs in a national park, and they're not going to be policed because, hey, unspoken agreement, it's all cool, it's safe. Isn't it better to, give them a safe space? It's okay. They'll just camp there. They'll just crash out in their vehicles and then they will go on their merry way in the morning. I mean, do you know how many people are still under the influence, over the legal limit for blood alcohol, and they're driving home the next morning? Do you know how many rear-enders or off-the-road accidents happen? Probably many of them are because people are still impaired from a night of excess. So you might think I'm being puritanical, but this is the whole thing, isn't it? If you're going to be a teenager who's taking risks, you need to, it needs to be understood, well, yeah, it is a risk. This is the risk that you take. The authorities are going to come round and stop it because they can be saving lives. They can be saving all sorts of things. They can save lives. They can save sexual assaults. They can save brain damage. They can save people's futures just by doing their jobs. Upholding the rules and regulations of their, town and of the county and of the country. And that's their obligation. They're in office to do that. They're not in office to pander to, we don't want to call them all spoiled rich kids, but possibly they are, right? I'll tell you what, police aren't giving a shit about kids that are on the street at 11 years old because their parents are meth addicts or abusers and they're getting away from stepfathers or trying to go out to steal food and they're out sniffing glue and being petty criminals. What are they doing to help them? They're probably, not getting them any real help, and they're probably busting their nuts and putting them in juvie. But these werewolves of London. So that was point number one. The other one is, don't you see how manipulative and inflammatory AWP have been in so many of their comments? Now, why should they get away with this? Is it Nick's inexperience? Is it his lack of media savvy? Or is this all a marketing ploy because they know the drama and the press mean revenue raising, right? It doesn't matter if it's for good or bad things, right or wrong, their end game will be served. And specifically, and they had me questioning myself, going, hold on, what did Nick say about the placement of the vehicle in the water? Kiely's vehicle, was it boot first or bonnet first? Toward the bonnet toward the land or rear end toward the land. Now, he tried to make people think that it was bonnet toward the land. Oh, but he can't be sure because he didn't have his compass So this is gaslighting us. Because, okay, so is he that stupid or confused? Was it just this pressure of the moment and of the situation, the stress? It's so, it is disturbing. Disturbing, as the Witch of the South says. She's disturbed. Gosh, I sounded like a dialect. But we know that the car was probably spun side over side and then pulled out, and it came out boot first. So let's just acknowledge that the car was boot toward land, went in bonnet first, spun over, and then spun over again, and repulsively, reprehensively, incomprehensibly, inconceivably, the car has not been sealed before it's spun. And, we know that half of Kiely's belongings are on the bottom of the lake. So this is disgusting, but hey, we don't know what story they would have told. Anything from data of the computer and phone can be gotten without the devices. They'd be ruined anyway. And I think, there's the usual suspects that you're going to find in there. Clothing, alcohol bottles. But, hey, wouldn't we like to know which sweatshirt was there? We don't know. Police are going to find out. They know what she was wearing. There are some items in the car. It is quite disgusting that her things ended up on the lake floor. If I were her father and maternal grandfather, I would have stayed there and I would have gone straight back and scoured that lake floor, but that's just me. But, I think Check It TV needs to realise that, well, he probably called the wrong agency. It's the Nevada County Police that are running the investigation, and everything does have to go through them. So, there's probably, if you make a phone call to a specific office, it's not the right one, they have to patch it through. That's what I think. Anyway, it was just a couple of those things. What do you think about, the idea that, well, the authorities have an obligation, lawful, moral, ethical, to police the citizens in a manner that is worthy of the citizens' respect, for safety and just, general concern for, so many things. What do you think? Or am I being too tight? Anyway, this is going to take ages to upload. I'll speak to you later.